Welcome back to Force Education. This is Zed. Today we're going to be talking about Camber Energy. So I did have a bunch of requests and I know I covered a few of them, but some of the people has still not been kind of bought out on the products and services, including their oil and gas operations. And a lot of the arguments is that they are a generator-based company rather than an oil and gas company. And they're trying to go for cryptocurrencies, power solutions, and different generators rather than the basic chunk of their income coming from oil and gas. So even though that they do have these operations true, and they have basically through their wholly owned subsidiary, Petrodome Energy Viking owns interest in certain oil and gas fields in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and properties include active conventional oil and gas wells along with developments prospects, some people still don't believe that they basically have considerable oil and gas income. I'll cover that. They also as well have Viking through its wholly subsidiary Midcon Petroleum LLC and Midcon Drilling. They have working interest in certain oil leases in Kansas, which includes undivided interest in all oil wells, equipments, and fixture located upon the leased properties, applicable formations of zones including the Cherokee, the Conglomerate, Viola, and Simpson Sandstone at depths ranging from 600 feet to 3,300 feet. And other targets of sand formations, including the Arbuckle, the Kansas City, the Topeka Limestone, and the Kinderhook. So there are a lot of mentions about here. So I went back and I dug into their last quarter filing to showcase how much of their money actually comes from oil and gas and oil and gas properties, as oil and gas hits record, and this stock has been having some arguments and debates about this one is not an oil and gas company, even though it actually mentions oil and gas E&P, for instance, on FinViz. So taking a look at their assets. So right off the bat, you have cash of around being $1.1 million. So all right, that's as of, by the way, September 30th, 2020. Their oil and gas properties subject to amortization is around 50.4 million, and not subject to that would be around 28 million. So in total, almost all of the 78 million point 4 is going, or 78 point, I would say 2. I will downgrade it just because of other property and equipments. Around $78.2 million goes to oil and gas properties. So taking a look into the company itself, 195 million. When you look at total assets overall being around right over here, total property and equipment, 78.4, 78.2 is a massive chunk. Now, this one is accumulated depletion, depreciation, amortization, and impairment. They're 78.356, so almost all their gas part, and notes received. So you're able to see, even though their total assets is 11.8, they have massive oil and gas dabbling into this one. Now, total liabilities and everything, so that's not going to really show much in oil and gas, but going towards revenue, and that's important. So revenue historically, so let's do 6 months ending September 30th, 2020 and 2019, you're able to see that their oil and gas and crude oil, for instance, has hit around $67.63 million in 2020, and in 2019, $160 million. Natural gas around $8 million compared to $19.5, and natural gas liquids $14.7 versus $34 million. So overall, your total revenue 6 months ending September 30th in 2020 was $91 million compared to $214. Now, when you compare 3 months ending, because in 2020, the gas dipped to record lows, you're able to see it hits 57.5 million in 2020 compared to 92.7 million in 2019. Now, as you get to see, there is still massive operating revenues, mainly coming from oil and gas. So calling this company not being an oil gas company is a little bit of a stretch, as you get to see here. So that's the main kind of aspect you're able to see on retail. A lot of people are still going on and trying to prove that it's an oil and gas, and this is your basically indisputable proof that it is and has experience in oil and gas. Now, there's no point of going to financials, as I did that in my previous video, and in SEC filings, we don't have anything new of interest. But before moving on towards technical analysis, if you would like to see more contents like this, make sure to click the subscribe button and leave notification buttons on for this channel, and don't forget to drop the like button if you've enjoyed this video so far. Let's move on now towards technical analysis. Now, from a technical analysis, CEI absolutely sees a massive jump on the last day, and moving averages are going from bearish to bullish, which is amazing. Now, this is in fact to a lot of people pushing back and saying, hey, it's an oil and gas company. It needs to follow up with the movement with oil and gas prices because that's where the revenue comes from. Well, not in these exact terms, but as I showed you today, revenues, oil and gas is extensively, a massive extensive part of this company. And so you're able to as well understand the impact of oil and gas prices on the company's revenues. Now, the average directional index is starting to show more of a reversal here. It's a bit of stabilized, but it's kind of a tug of war. The William percent R is not yet at overbought, which is, by the way, very similar to the relative strength index. So suggesting that even though demand peaked, it's not at its highest it's been, and the ratio is still a tug of war. I would say halfway through, almost in a sense, but more buying than selling action. The MACD shows a positive kind of reversal from where it was sliding downwards in that bullish flag stance that I did describe before. And you're able to see that it could easily continue on this push as momentum increases to around 0.25 positive and doesn't go towards the negative, which was at risk to do so as it really inched towards the zero on Thursday. Now, the stochastic fast and stochastic slow, all these indicators are pinpointing upwards, suggesting a really nice level going up, and it really does suggest that there could be another leg up for this one. So really positive things that we're seeing here. Now, in terms of moving average bands, we're able to see significant kind of basically upward movements on the Bollinger Bands. So it went from around 0.73 to 0.76. I say significant, it's still within percentages and relatively. So 0.76 is the window on the top and 0.42 on the bottom. The Bollinger Bands so are a little bit further apart than the moving average bands, but they're all going upwards. The moving average bands are between 0.65 on the top and 0.53 on the bottom and 0.59 in the middle as a resistance / support depending on what direction it is. But currently it's poking above the Bollinger Bands, which is pretty good to see. Previously, it had kind of mixed things. It drops right back. But with the right volume, with the right news, with the right understanding that this is an oil and gas company, it can continue pushing forward. Now, in terms of using the 485 as the peak, you're able to see some significant resistances at 140, 206, 259, 312, and 388, and 485 with a support at 33 cents. Now, if we were to go ahead with some price line actions, we're able to see a significant resistances at 81 cents, 97 cents, 113, 130, 141, 153, 170, going higher to around 187 and up to around 231. Now, there isn't any analyst recommendations, but we can go through supports a little. So there is some supports, 73 cents, 67 cents, 56 cents, 46 cents, and 37 cents. Coming to the question, Ed, what do you think is more likely going to happen? Well, the downward trend and the bullish flag that we drawn before is actually in effect, and you get to see it's more of a bullish action. With oil and gas prices really skyrocketing to record highs, this company has not only oil and gas properties, but also rights to some reservoirs in the US and access as well to some lands, for instance, that could be explored further in oil and gas. So they can actually go ahead and divert and explore a little bit of that to really improve their revenue performance. Now, I myself am not a massive lover of oil and gas per se. I'm more about green energy, but I actually still see some impact that this will be very much positive onto this company in the longer run, and only time will tell. But I do imagine that that will be something that they will be discussing in the next meetings or so about their current licenses and rights to some oil reserves and lands. What do you think about this ticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and have a wonderful day.